Good evening. We start tonight like we have for the past two nights with a Fox News alert. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. News breaking moments ago from the Justice Department. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is announcing the appointment of a special counsel to oversee the FBI investigation of Russian government efforts to influence the 2016 election. And also, as then Director Comey talked about allegations of possible collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. That special counsel will be former DOJ official and former FBI Director Robert Mueller. This announcement takes this investigation to another level, and Mueller will have leeway to run the investigation as he sees fit. Mueller will have all the powers of a U.S. attorney and will be able to impanel a grand jury. Robert Mueller became FBI director shortly before 9/11 and was at the heart of turning the FBI into a counterterrorism and counterintelligence operation. He extended his 10-year term, 2 years serving under Presidents Bush and Obama. Now he takes the reins of an investigation that led to the firing of his former deputy, Jim Comey. Breaking news tonight. Let's start off, as we have, with Chief White House correspondent John Roberts on the North Lawn. John, this just does change the dynamic.
It certainly does, and it's a very surprising announcement, Brett, considering that we heard from the deputy director, or the acting director now of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, in testimony to the Intelligence Committee in the Senate last week, that the FBI has all the resources necessary to be able to conduct the Russia investigation itself. But we have heard increasing calls from Democrats on Capitol Hill and some Republicans as well for the appointment of a special prosecutor, just so that the American public can be assured that this investigation is carried out appropriately and to its most thorough form. No response yet from the White House tonight, but I would suggest that the White House had signed off on this. I mean, they are in charge of the Department of Justice. They like to give it the greatest degree of autonomy possible. And this is a way for the president to reclaim the narrative here and get this off the table, as he tried to do earlier today with this whole business about the memo that the former FBI director, James Comey, allegedly wrote, in which he said that during a meeting in February in the Oval Office, the president asked him to drop the Flynn investigation.
It was a defiant President Trump addressing cadets at the Coast Guard Academy graduation today, seeming to brush off increasing attacks on his presidency.
You have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Things will work out just fine. Look at the way I've been treated lately, especially by the media.
The posture was vintage Trump, in much the same position he frequently found himself on the campaign trail. Now, like then, even members of his own party are taking a step back, joining calls for hearings into all the allegations.
We need the facts. It is obvious there are some people out there who want to harm the president, but we have an obligation to carry out our oversight regardless of which party is in the White House.
With the president becoming increasingly isolated, Democrats are moving in. The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee describing the Comey memo as, quote, a textbook case of criminal obstruction of justice.
The White House is obstructing our investigation, covering up for General Flynn, and refusing to provide not a single document.
The Senate Minority Leader stopped short of saying it was obstruction of justice, but Chuck Schumer tweaked his fellow New Yorkers, saying the president can easily clear this up by releasing any tapes he has of conversations with Comey.
But if he fails to release them, the American public will justifiably tend to side with Mr. Comey, not what the president had to say, particularly in light of so much backtracking, backsliding, factual fabrication in this White House.
The White House threw a change-up into the news cycle late this afternoon. President Trump meeting with 4 candidates for FBI director, including former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman, who changed his political affiliation from Democrat to Independent in 2006. While Lieberman served as Attorney General in Connecticut in the 1980s, he has no federal law enforcement background. Other candidates the president was meeting with include the acting director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, another FBI official, Richard McFeely, and former Oklahoma Governor Frank Keating.
Well, let's just say we had a good conversation.
President Trump also got some backup, welcome or not, on his claim to have done nothing wrong in discussing intelligence with Russia's foreign minister. Russian President Vladimir Putin today offering to provide Congress with a transcription of the meeting.
We are ready to provide recording of Trump-Lavrov talks to the U.S. Congress and Senate, of course, if the U.S. administration wants it.
The offer raised questions as to whether President Trump might have some company in his suggestion that his conversations are being recorded.
Do you think that Russians were bugging the Oval Office?
I would have no way to know that.
The announcement of the appointment of a special prosecutor really does change the whole trajectory of the Russia investigation. This is what Democrats have been screaming for, and suddenly the Justice Department has handed it to them on a silver platter. It kind of harkens back, Brett, to the budget negotiations when the White House said, well, you know, we don't really need funding for bricks and mortar for a wall, which kind of threw the Democrats back on their heels. They didn't know how to respond to it. It will be interesting to see tonight in the coming hours, minutes actually, how Democrats respond to the fact that Robert Mueller, a well-respected former director of the FBI, is now heading up this Russia investigation. Brett?
You know, John, quickly, one of the things about a special counsel is that he or she can go anywhere they want to with an investigation, and oftentimes goes to places that you wouldn't think that the investigation would take them to. One of the concerns about this, obviously, for the White House and for Republicans.
Yeah, clearly it is, but don't forget that these days the special prosecutor, Brett, is different than it was back in the 1990s. The special counsel statute was allowed to expire. Neither the Republicans nor the Democrats wanted it. That's when the appointment of a special prosecutor was moved to inside the Justice Department. So this may proceed in a little bit more orderly fashion than special counsels who were outside the Justice Department did in the past, and I think it's probably pretty safe to say that Robert Mueller will be focused on the Russia investigation. Will try to get to the heart of that as quickly as he can and to the best of his ability without going down some tangential routes that may take him in absolutely in directions that may lead him way out in the political wilderness, as Ken Starr was so well known to do.
Yeah. John Roberts with the breaking news on the North Lawn. John, thanks.